Hello everybody and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 308. My name is NBZ and we sit here on All Hallows Eve, everyone's favourite day, except for me and Bally who hate it because we're scared of everything and we're terrified and we're just sitting here hoping people don't ring our doorbells because that would be terrible, you know, it'd be a really bad situation.
Yes.
But yes, it's Halloween, we're here to ignore that that's the fact. Look, there's some dates that are important, Halloween-wise, relevant to us. Most importantly, of course, Bally, Sum 41 we saw on Halloween in Glasgow.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's the thing about Halloween though, and there's a few other dates like this, but when you know capitalism has won is when people call days holidays that aren't days off.
Yes. Yeah, very true. Yeah.
I find it very depressing. Maybe it's more of an American thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's a holiday. It's holidays. Right. No, holidays are not work days. That's just not a thing.
Well, so, Americans have the word vacation, right? Which they separate out as a different thing for when they're taking time vacation, off. So yes, I think they use the language slightly differently to us in that case.
Yeah. I feel like it's been merged. There's a grey area created on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Caroline and I were very busy in and around the birth of Ballychew last year.
That is correct.
So this is actually our first, Halloween in our new house.
Yeah.
So it's all we don't even know. The door might go any minute.
There might be some more children coming around. If Bally has to step away from the show, we're just going to do it in real time. Yes. He's just going to step away, give some children some candy.
I'm just going to do it. We've got some Haribo waiting to go. But I think the culture, I don't know what the rest of the UK is like, but the culture here seems to be like, if your lights are on and you've got like a jack-o'-lantern or something outside, that means like, hey, come on by. And if not, then I feel like people don't knock much. That's my guess. That certainly happens. It's the case on like my parents' street.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how into Halloween the UK even is. It feels
not really. I mean, like I never really did it growing up. Like, no. I did it once. Me and Murray went and did Halloween when we were, I don't know, maybe 11 or something. I want to say 1 year in Scotland, and that was about it. I seem to remember there was a dog in someone's house and we ran away because it was chasing us, and that was pretty bad. So, but yeah, I think it's the only time that I really did Halloween to any significant measure.
I did it once when I was younger, visiting family in Orlando, Florida, and it was like best place to do it because it was mild, it was warm, and I was dressed as Mickey Mouse. And it was honestly dressing as Mickey Mouse in Orlando, Florida. It just felt like two on the
a little bit, It's like wearing the band's T-shirt fun. To the concert a little bit there. So.
Yes. Doing it in the States was fun at the time, but I was 3, so that's true. A long time ago now.
So, Bally, this podcast, someone mentioned this to us of like we forget what we say. This podcast has now gone on for so long. I don't know if either of us have had those anecdotes about Halloween before, because we likely have already recorded a podcast on Halloween like 7 years ago and maybe relayed the exact same information. But that's up to the listener to go and figure out for us. Because I
think, my memory was pretty bad before having 2 kids, and since having 2 kids, it's like I can
it's created.
Remember my name sometimes.
Yeah, no, he doesn't even know who he is. It's bad. It's a pretty terrible situation.
Yeah.
But I know who I am, Bally, and I am a real video gamer now. You know why? Because I've been anointed, I've been knighted by the institutions of our great country. I'm now an official member of BAFTA, Bally. Shout out to
Lord MBZ himself.
That's me. I'm a BAFTA member. This is one of those fun things that I have been. Has been a goal of mine since I joined the games industry. So like in 2020 when I started, someone at work was like, hey, by the way, did you know you joined BAFTA? You get this like secret code, this like Steam code that gives you access to like all these video games.
Apparently it's not very secret anymore.
No, everyone knows about it anyway. But I was like, oh, interesting. So I was like, how do I do that? And they're like, oh, you have to have worked in video games for 5 years. And I was like, shit, I've just started working in video games. How do I do that? Here we are, over 5 years later. I actually applied for it last year in like August. It took like over a year to get it through, but it did finally come through, and I am now a full member of BAFTA, which means I can go to their fancy place in Piccadilly and have lunch or whatever. I also get I get free movie ticket every week, so that's nice if I want to go to the movies.
Nice.
And then I own every single video game now, so that's great. So,
You do not care about the free bar and the cinema ticket. You're just here for the game.
that's it. That's all I'm here for. I'm here for the video games. And some of those...
and to be part of some future panels.
Absolutely,
and
yes.
put your good knowledge of the industry to good use to further the cause of video games in the UK.
For sure, yeah, totally. So yeah, they have some good... They have lots of events and stuff on, which is great. So I'll be doing some of that, I imagine, and then I can vote. I can vote in the what gets nominated among the whole membership.
Remind me what the timeline is like for BAFTA awards. They take place like February, March.
It happens around March. Basically, all the nominations have to be in by like November-ish time this year, and then all of the membership plays stuff and then votes on it, and then that's how the long list happens. So the long list then goes to a jury, and then the jury goes and decides what the nominees are from there, basically. And I've done that process once, a couple of years ago, back in 23. Awesome. I did that. So
are you allowed to talk about that?
Probably not the process, no, because there's like stuff about it. But yeah, I did. I played a bunch of games for that, and then was part of a jury, which was fun. And I think I could probably do that again if I wanted to. But it's a lot of time. It's a lot because you have to put significant time into all the games nominated, and I had to play games that I didn't necessarily want to. Horror games, which is relevant to this podcast. So yeah, stuff like that is you kind of have to sign up for it and do a good job, basically. So yeah, it's a good process. I think it's an interesting process because most other game awards are like general populism, I would say. Like it's all about popularity. It's all about like what have most people played, and because BAFTA is specifically like, no, you're on this, you have to play these games, so everyone has played everything, and then you have a discussion about it. And so yeah, it's all well done, basically. So it's a good process. But yeah, so I've got a couple of those games that I've been playing as part of today's show that we're talking about. But Valley, what are we talking about in today's show? For the first segment, we're going to talk about the games that we have been playing, and there's a lot of them. And for the second segment, we're going to go back to some more listener emails. Absolutely. So, Bally, you have done something which neither of us have done in a while, which is to finish your game trade game before the very last minute of the year. I mean, we're getting there. We're pretty much close to the end of the year, so it's not like you're doing it early. But you decided, hey, now it's time to pop the cork and not wait until literally December 31st to finish the video game. So
I've got a busy November, December lined up, where my November is basically going to be dictated by Hades 2, and then my December is dictated by Metroid Prime 4, and I was like, I need to get Ghost of Yoti out of the way, I need to get Professor Layton out of the way, I need to get these games out of the way so I can just focus on these big potential GOTY contenders, who knows, kind of games in November, December. So that was my thinking. Very quickly, for people who are wondering what game trade is, I think we've been doing this for about 5 years now.
Is it that many? That seems way too much. Really?
No, come on, let me list the games you've given me. So you've given me Codename Steam.
Yes.
Sonic
Mania. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney was the first one.
Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Danganronpa.
Right. And this.
And I think Layton might be the fifth.
You're right.
Am I right
Fuck,
on that?
how have we done it for that long?
I'm not forgetting one?
No, I don't think so. I think it's 5 years, yeah.
Okay, and the 5 I've given you, I think, are Untitled Goose Game.
Yes. Metroid Prime, of course. Who could forget?
Metroid Prime, famous.
Yeah.
Owlboy.
Yes, Owlboy, yeah. This year's is Cult of the Lamb, which I've not played yet.
This year's is Cult of the Lamb, which you've not played yet. And what's the last one that I've given you?
I cannot remember what the final one is. It wasn't Advance Wars, because I played that on my own, I think. So yeah. Someone will remind us.
Anyway, so we should have a discussion at some point about like our ranking of our favorite.
Game trade ranking.
But, I will say I had a really great time with Professor Layton and the Curious Village. I was playing this through some unusual means.
Allegedly.
On my Steam deck, but I think it held up really well. And MZ, you helped me with like formatting, and there's different things you can do with the two screens, and there's like you can just rotate through ways that you lay out the two screens in like live time just by flicking the trigger, and it's very seamless. I didn't even need a stylus or anything. I was just using my finger for all the touchscreen stuff, which worked really well like 99% of the time, I'd say. Like there was a handful of games where it was just a little bit finicky, but that's totally fine. Very playable. I think this game is just really awesome. Quick side tangent, sorry. Guess who has played this game?
I think you
you
told me this on a message.
This is how bad my memory is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Caroline's mum has played this game. She was one of these people back in the mid-aughts with the DS, where Caroline and her brother owned 2DSs, 1DS, I can't remember. But she was keen on like Dr. Kawashima's brain training. The
Touch Generations era.
Touch Generations. I mean, I'm surprised she didn't get into like Nintendo.
Right, yeah.
But she did play Layton, and to this day, she's one of these people who loves a bit of gaming on her iPad. And when I say gaming, I like
crossword puzzles. Is that kind of the realm?
Yeah, crosswords, digital jigsaw puzzles. I wouldn't argue that Layton has led her down a path of like gaming as it were on her iPad. It's more just like,
well, I think Layton was such an interesting case because it kind of intersected between a traditional video game and a crossword puzzle, basically.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I just think this game is awesome. It's really, really cool. I think the game is almost very distinctly two parts. It's one part puzzles. This game has 120 puzzles. And then the other part is kind of pseudo mystery walk around adventure game, kind of let's talk to characters, find out what's going on, solve the riddle kind of thing. A little bit Ace Attorney-ish,
yes,
but much lighter in a nice way, where the focus on the tough bit is the puzzles. And I just think the puzzles are such a highlight because you get, are they called Picarats?
Picarats, yes. And you can find them in the environment. You can find coins in the environment that you can then use to get hints during the puzzles, which will, I think that reduces the number of Picarats you get from clearing a puzzle. Is that correct? Or can you still get maximum Picarats by using hints?
You can use hints, but they're limited. Right. Picarats, to my knowledge, only go down when you like you make
something wrong.
Error
Okay, yeah.
And you get something wrong. What I love the most about these puzzles is they're a blend of, some of the puzzles are riddles. Some of the puzzles are kind of like maths based ish. Like if I do this and take this away from that, and what's the area of this kind of thing.
If Thomas was 12 and Maria was 16, then who was Albert or whatever, that type of thing.
Exactly. Some of them use the touchscreen much more. It's like you need to get the ball out of this maze, and you're like, it's like shifting pieces in a puzzle, or getting the car out of a section, or getting the princess out of this car. That was like a really difficult one near the end of the game, like get the princess out of this thing, and that took me absolutely ages. So it's utilizing the touchscreen. The riddles you could do on any system, but the touchscreen is very much like, oh yeah, you need a touchscreen to get all these things.
Yeah, and for a lot of puzzles as well, the touchscreen is utilized in a way of like, oh, I'm just gonna kind of jot some ideas down here, right? I'm gonna do maths on the bottom screen while I have a look and try and figure out what's going on. Like writing down things to keep track of, I think is why the DS was such a good platform for it, because it was essentially a note-taking device for solving puzzles.
Yes, yeah, no, it's very impressive. And there's another style of puzzle that's like, move these people across on this raft, and you can't leave the snake with the cow because it'll eat the cow, and you can't leave the cow with the chickens because the chickens, and it's like this weird thing of like working out who goes where and what kind of stuff that only works with a touchscreen is what I'm trying to say. It's not all stuff that's purely touchscreen. It's not all stuff that's purely riddles and this kind of thing. And there's some real like brain busters in there. What I think it was so satisfying was I was getting the majority of these puzzles fairly well. There were some real brain busters, but I'd solve them, or I'd ask for a hint, or like I'd often be a bit conscious, like I don't want to lose all my coins and be struggling. I'm just gonna Google, and there are plenty of great IGN guides that will just give you the hints if you want them, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could be like, right, I'm just gonna look up a hint, and okay, right, I kind of get it more now, and this that kind of thing. And there was a real satisfaction to just working these things out and being, or even getting it wrong and being like, no, but okay, right, I get it. And I'd say there's 120 puzzles in the game. I think I did 100 and did I do like 99, 102? Like I did almost all of them. I left a few.
Okay.
And I didn't. You only need like, there's like a sort of end game area. You only need 75 puzzles completed to progress to that, past that end game save state, as it were. So I don't think the game makes you do everything, but obviously I'm sure there's so many latent sickos out there who just like have to do everything. But I'm not in that camp of needing to do everything. I'm not at that stage in my life of gaming right now, to be honest. So I was like, I'm happy to do what I need to do, and this kind of thing. But yeah, I just think these puzzles are so well executed, and I was getting enough right where it was satisfying and really fun, and I wanted to do more. And there were maybe 2 puzzles in the whole game where, even after looking up all the hints and looking up the answer, I was like, I have no idea how. I just do not get that. That maybe happened like twice in the whole game. So I think the vast majority of puzzles really well thought through, really clear, really interesting. And then there's like some cool riddles that are really like puzzly. So there's this one. I'll test you.
Okay,
see if you can
you're
get
right.
it right.
Can I remember this game that I played 12 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got one match left.
Yeah.
And you need to heat up a bathtub, you need to light fire, and you need to light a kerosene match.
Right.
Which do you need to light first?
Kerosene match, because then you can use that to light the fire and then the
kerosene lamp to light the fire and to light the Wrong. The thing you need to light first is the match.
Oh, you motherfucker. That's just
It's right.
That's so stupid. That's such a Layton ass puzzle.
There are so many puzzles in this game, riddles that are like that.
I remember now, there's a lot of like bullshit puzzles that are like, lol, actually, the puzzle was a puzzle, lol. Yeah. I remember that a lot. Yeah, that's true.
Well, there's like, if the weight of this was like this, and then you were on the moon, and then you did this, and it was 600 grams, what would it be? And you're like, 600 grams? Like, no, you're forgetting the weight of the scale.
Right.
Like, oh my God. Like, there's some really crafty stuff in there. But sometimes I would catch on to the crafty stuff, work it out late, and these are like later game puzzles, and nail it. I'm like, yes, I'm smart.
Yeah,
I
got
you.
you.
I know you.
Nailed
I know
you.
this. I got you. So I just think the puzzles are fantastic. I think on top of that, the game is just really, really charming. Like, Layton and his assistant Luke, they're clearly from like London, from the UK, and
oh, it's me, Luke.
Curious Village.
Which, by the way, I don't know if RFN mentioned this a lot, but I believe Luke has a different voice actor in the UK version versus the US version of Layton. It's one of those bizarre situations where they have a different voice actor, and I can't remember.
I don't know what version I played, but he is like Governor Cockney,
right?
London.
Yes.
All right, yeah. But he's not that deep, gruff of a voice where he's like, all right, I'm Luke. I can't remember the accent. But my point is, like, I was just like, oh God, is this the voice acting we're within 2007, which is when I think this game came out. But the setting is charming because you're driving to the Curious Village, which is clearly France. Like, it's very cute, picturesque village in France, and the architecture is glorious. It's so quaint. It just looks like a really lovely, quaint Japanese anime. And on top of that, there are these actual videos, like actual cutscenes, video, like animation.
Right, there was such a mind-blowing thing back in the day, the DS having like
so
fully
cool.
animated cutscenes
that are like fully voice acted and everything. And yeah, it's like, wow, this ran on a DS? How the hell did this work? So yeah, it's just really quaint. And I didn't see the twists coming in the story. I was like, wow.
Yes.
Like, do you remember the story well, MBZ? How much?
I do, yes. I mean, I remember the overall twist. The thing that Layton is famous for generally is having these grand plots, not grand plots necessarily, but like having these interesting scenarios where there's a twist revealed at the end to figure out what's actually going on here, basically. So I do quite clearly remember what the one is for the first game. Second one, I don't as much. The third game, also wild, maybe the wildest of all of them. But yeah, the first game is pretty memorable in terms of the thing that happens and the way that it kind of like surprises you.
The twist.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I did not see that coming, but that does explain all of these questions that I have.
Yeah, exactly.
About everything.
Even explains that, like, why is everyone asking you to do puzzles for them as well, right? Like, there's a degree to which that is kind of built into the narrative, which I think over time you lose that because, like, the first game clearly was built with that concept in mind, and then it's like, well, we have this formula now. People just have to ask you to do puzzles, but we can't do that in the same way, that we did here. So
here's another thing I love about the way that everyone's laid out in the village is there are like people that are specialists in particular puzzles. So there's like one guy who works behind the bar, and his puzzles all orientate around pouring liquid between containers. And the puzzle is like, you've got a 12-liter container, a 6-liter, and a 3-liter. You start with 12 liters in the 12-liter container. How do you pour out the liters in order to get 6 liters in each of the 12 in this? And then that escalates every time you go back to that same guy. He'll have like a new puzzle of that same style. So like there's a set number of styles of puzzle, I would argue, in this game,
right.
And there might be like 4 or 5 of them. And then, but again, there's like a chess specialist, and his one is like, you have 4 queens on a 5x5 grid. How do you fit all the queens on the board without them overlapping each other with their, checking each other? I really enjoyed those ones as well. It's just like really smart stuff. I'm just was so impressed by how Moorish and pleasant, and the writing, I think, is very good. I think that like it's a very like flirty game. It's like, wow, writing in 2007 was a bit different. So and Layton is like this very classy kind of gentleman, but he kind of works his way around some of the other characters being more flirty. So like the main characters, like daughter, someone says, oh, she's so beautiful, and Layton's just like, true beauty never ages, kind of thing. It's just like, that was a bit and then Beatrice, who works in the inn, Layton says, oh, I'll be staying the night, and she's like got a thing for Layton, and then she's like, besides, my door is always open for a dashing gentleman such as yourself. And it's like, okay, well, where is this going? And then there was a really bad one where there's one puzzle, I won't give away where or when it happens. You basically have to poke this girl on the neck to reveal something. And like me and my big fat fingers, I'm trying to poke the neck and it's not working. And this was one of the 1 in 100 puzzles that was just, I was struggling with a bit. And every time you touch just slightly below the neck, Layton says, now, we need to be gentlemen here or something. It's like, I'm being called out by my video game for like trying to touch this person inappropriately. This is ridiculous. So yeah, the game is just a little bit on the edge on some of these areas that I was a bit like, wow, I don't think the Layton game coming out next year is going to have quite this level of writing. This is 2007, so this is really interesting. But to wrap things up, I was really, really happy with this game. The puzzles never got crazy. They were never too easy. They were just a good level for me. And I think I'm not as good as you, MZ, at like the puzzle style of games, but I think I'm okay. And like I think that this game was a really good level.
This is a different type of puzzle game as well, right? Because it is it is more of a back of a newspaper style puzzle as opposed to a Cocoon style puzzle, right? Like it's not that approach. It is different. A couple of things I'm interested to know. How much? Because I'm very obsessive with this shit. How much time did you spend tapping every single screen to get the 3 hint coins on every screen? Because when I played every Layton game, all I would do is like, okay, tap. I need to make sure I get all 3 hint coins on every single screen that I'm on, and so I'm just fucking tapping the screen to find hint coins the whole time.
You're saying every single new screen has 3 hint coins?
Correct. Yes, every screen has 3 hint coins.
I think I must have used 10, 15 hint coins throughout the game. Occasionally when I was like, I'll just use a hint coin, I can't be bothered to get my phone and whatever. And then I think I was left at the end of the game with like 25. So I think I maybe whole game got 40 or 50, which is a fraction, I think, of how many there are, if you're saying
I believe so. I mean, so my memory is like tapping the screen incessantly to try and find the fucking hint coins everywhere. Maybe there is just one on every screen, but my memory is I'm tapping every single element here to find whatever there is available, basically.
I did it a lot. I wouldn't say I did it to that extent.
Yeah, and I think this is the difference between using a big finger versus a stylus, is you can be quite precise on where you're tapping. I was trying to find, because they do put them in smart places of like, oh, there's a door sign hanging that's got one in it, and so it's I enjoy that element of Layton quite a bit, the kind of tapping. The thing that is kind of interesting to me is I do think that while Layton 1 is very, very good, and from a narrative perspective and the way it ties into the idea of like why everyone's asking you about puzzles and stuff, I do think that the series gets better at contextualizing puzzles. So for example, if you go back and listen to me talk about Layton 3, which is the only Layton game I believe I've talked about on the show aside from Layton versus Wright, Layton 3 has a puzzle where you're in like this shootout in a casino, and like Layton needs to like make a makeshift gun to hit this guy, and you go into a puzzle where the puzzle is Tetrising together pieces to make a makeshift gun, and then the cutscene continues and he uses it in the cutscene. So in later Layton games, they take the puzzles and they tie it into the story a lot more heavily. So what your characters are doing, where they're going, what they need to accomplish is reflected in the puzzle and the narrative of the puzzle and the design of the puzzle. Where I feel the first game is far more like, hey, I was reading the newspaper, here's a puzzle about these people, and it's just not related to the narrative as you go through.
Yeah, they link it very vaguely, where the chess guy is sat at a table playing chess.
Right.
The guy with all the drinks going liquid from one container to the next, he's the barman behind the bar. But like that's the link. Or like the ones I was saying about getting across the river, that's something you do when you're on a bridge going to the mansion. It's it's not as contextual as we're building a gun for the cutscene, but it's not like, not most of the time it's not non-existent, but a lot of the time it still is a bit non-existent, doesn't link at all. But
I do. I hope the new Layton game goes more along the lines of the third one. And I've not played the second trilogy, the prequel trilogy yet.
Oh really?
No, I still have. I own one of the 3DS games. I could play.
So the second trilogy is on the 3DS.
So the first game of the second trilogy is on the DS, and then the subsequent two are on the 3DS, basically.
Okay.
So
and there are 7 mainline Layton games.
I would say 6, and then there's like Catriel's whatever that no one likes, and then there's Layton versus of course. It's interesting you compare Layton to Ace Attorney a little bit in the kind of walking around areas, because basically what Layton versus Right does is it replaces the walk around sections of Phoenix Wright with Layton walk around sections. So you do the courtroom. This is why it's one of my favorite games of either series, because it takes literally the best of both worlds. You do the courtroom stuff, Ace Attorney, and you do the walk around stuff as Layton, and it just makes the flow feel so good, because you're doing the puzzles as Layton, and that exploration and talking to people is a much better flow than in the original Phoenix Wright games, where going back and forth between areas, talking to characters, I need to do a psych lock now and do all this sort of stuff. So the pacing just feels...
Can be tricky progressing.
It's just a lot smoother. And so it's cool, because I think at this point, now you've played the first Ace Attorney and the first Layton, I think you probably could play Layton versus Right and get what you want out of it at this point in time, because you have the context of both. But it is one of my favorites of both series, just because I think it marries it so well together, and it has the Layton-esque twist at the end. It has that whole reveal stuff as well. So like it really does combine the worlds in a beautiful way.
I'm really impressed. I think this, alongside Danganronpa, might be my 2 favorite game trade games. I think Phoenix Wright is just one notch down, and that's purely for those like walking around sections, I'd argue, in like Phoenix Wright, which can be a little bit slower, but the courtroom scenes are still fantastic in Phoenix Wright. So I think I'm most keen on playing the sequel to this game, partly because Layton is coming out next year, but on top of that, it's a lot shorter than Danganronpa 2. Danganronpa 2 is like 40 hours long, so like I will play it at some point, but this it just feels a bit more...
Layton's a lot more digestible, for sure. Yeah,
it's like 13 hours or so, and it took me about 11, 12 hours, so like, it was very, very good. And I think when I was WhatsApping you about MZ, it was like, I said, it just feels really fresh. It just feels very different, because like you say, it's not like a Cocoon. It's not like another puzzle game. It's like traditional puzzles inserted into a video game, and by doing that, it just feels a lot more fresh. As someone who doesn't do crosswords and logic puzzles outside of video games, like, it feels very fresh for that, and I am very keen on playing the second game.
Yeah, I think it's like, because it's also tied to a narrative, right? And you want to progress the story, and you want to see what's going to happen, and so there is a incentive behind the puzzle other than just finishing the puzzle, right? Which I think is quite nice.
And I kind of I actually looked up quite early on how many puzzles the game has, and then I was like, right, because I'm in like this min-maxing, I need to beat games kind of mode, which is not massively healthy, but I still had a really good time. I was like, right, I'm going to play 20 puzzles a day. That's my aim with this game. And that was actually a really good length of time. I'd say it took about an hour to 2 hours every day, most days, to play 20 puzzles. And some of those puzzles I would get instantly, and others I'd spend 20 minutes on. It's like, that was a really nice balance. Like, I think that this game is just really cool. I'm really, really excited for Layton next year. I think I'll beat at least the second game before that.
Oh wow, okay.
Switch 2 game comes out.
I can't remember if I put all 3 of them onto your alleged.
You did.
Okay,
you did.
Good.
They're there.
Great.
I don't know if all 4 are, because you said there's a 4th DS.
No, there's the 4th DS game, which I have not played yet. But I'm coming over to Edinburgh for Christmas, so I can always, allegedly buy you from eBay another copy of it. So
yeah, get me sorted.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
I'm impressed. Good pick.
Nice.
I look forward to hearing your thoughts on Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah. No, I think it was one of those that I'm like, this is a game that Bally should play and he would like, but he's never going to do it on his own. So you kind of have to be like, okay, go and do this. Which I think is the purpose of Game Trade, really, is to get us to do that. So yeah, I'm glad that it landed. Now you're a fan, which is great. So we'll.
Layton for Smash.
Yeah, God, honestly, I really wanted Phoenix Wright for Smash as well, and that never happened. So, but they should do them as a duo.
Okay, who's higher profile, Layton or Phoenix Wright?
It's a really good question. I think probably Phoenix Wright in modern times, because Layton has been absent for so long. Now, Phoenix Wright has also been absent, but Capcom have at least done a good job of remaking and remastering and re-releasing Phoenix Wright games on a pretty, or Ace Attorney games, I should say.
Layton is unplayable, like there's no way you can play
No, exactly. I think they might exist on phones. I think they might have ported them to mobile at some point. But
I did see, when I was looking up some guides on YouTube and things, I definitely saw a lot of like phone screen grabs and things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny you said that Caroline's mum played Layton, because similarly, my mum's sister, my auntie, also played Layton, who I do not consider someone who plays games at all. But back when the DS was big and my cousins had it, she played Layton. I was like, this is so weird.
These people just saw that same advert. Maybe it was Beyonce or something.
It must have been Beyonce. That was it.
It's just someone like Beyonce. Just Beyonce likes Layton. Let's play some Layton.
Right. Yeah.
It's just some advert out there worked on these people.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Don't
Very
believe
strange.
What a time!
It was a time. This was around the era I was playing Sky, because I remember I played Skyward Sword that year, and then I went to my cousin's house and finished Skyward Sword there on the Wii. I remember beating the final boss there. So yeah, good time.
I think that is the toughest Zelda final boss.
It's pretty challenging. Yeah, it's pretty challenging.
Maybe Tears of the Kingdom is like.
Yeah, that was pretty hard tough as well.
That was tough.
I think also the other thing you were saying to me is like, hey, it's nice to play an old game again, and I feel like for you especially, I think it's harder to play more old games in the same way that we used to. I'm glad that that's.
I really want to make a point of like, because we do obviously do go TT to Coty, and I am always playing old games. Most of those are just like indies that I'm catching up on in the year, but I think it
came out like 2 years ago exactly, which aren't really old games necessarily.
Exactly, but not old games, they're just older than this year.
Yeah.
But I do really want to try and make a point of like playing at least 3-4 games that are like, pre, I don't know, 2015.
Yeah, well, I think the DS is like ripe ground for that, because I think if you were to if you were to give an answer of your favorite DS games, it'd all be stuff you played as a kid, and you haven't really played any DS games since then.
Honestly, like looking back at my DS library on like Backlogger and stuff, it's kind of embarrassing. My DS, I don't like my DS collection.
Right.
I can make the same argument for a lot of Wii games, honestly.
Sure.
Like, I just think the quality of stuff I was into at the time. I never played Layton or Phoenix Wright, or like these are games that I really love now and want to get into those series more. So yeah, my tastes have just changed a lot in that time, and it's a good opportunity to fully appreciate the DS library.
Yeah, the DS has like such a rich library of so many interesting things, and I've done my best to kind of go back to some of them, but there's still a ton of DS games that I also want to hit off my list at some point. So, yeah, trying to make a conscious effort to go back into the older things and dig those out. So, yes. Cool. So I have been playing. I played over the weekend Despelote, which is a game that came out earlier this year, published by Panic, who did Untitled Goose Game and a bunch of other stuff. Thank Goodness You're Here, I believe, was them as well. So they did the Play Date, as we all know, everyone's favorite console that we never ended up using because it doesn't have a backlight. Yeah, God, I would play if the Playdate had a backlight. I tell you what, I would play so much more fucking Playdate than I ended up doing.
It's honestly like one of my, if not my worst ever purchase. Yeah. And I think we both underestimated fitting playing Playdate games into our gaming schedule when you have something so small and perfect for playing in bed, and then it doesn't have a backlight.
It destroys it. It destroys it.
It destroys it.
But they publish a bunch of stuff, and one of those games is a game called Despelote that I had heard about like for a couple of years and had seen. It was like lots of festivals and things like that, and it is I would call an autobiographical narrative game. So it's a game about football, which is a topic for me that is not that interesting, generally speaking. That I think. Famously, me and Bally became friends because we hated football, and we sat on the side and were like, we don't like that. We don't ever want to do that. Then Bally betrayed me, of course, and started watching football, and I was like, well, fuck him. But anyway, if you want the origins of Bally and mine's friendship, it's about hating football, really, at the end of the day.
We hate football.
Yeah. I watched football when I was younger. I used to support Celtic when I was younger, all that sort of stuff. So, I know football, but I really don't care about sports these days at all. I don't watch any sports. It's not a thing that I like to spend my time doing. Can
I say a really random sports thing at the time of recording?
Uh-huh.
The Blue Jays are one game away from winning the World Series.
Damn, dude! Shout out to
that's my baseball
team.
I'm a very fair weather fan, as people can probably guess from the fact that I've never mentioned the Blue Jays on the podcast.
That's the only baseball team I know is because Bally. So there you go.
But I've been to like 4 or 5 games. I got family in Toronto.
Right.
I love watching baseball when I get the opportunity. It's just I never get the opportunity, so it's very exciting. They've not won it since 1993. This is a big deal.
Yeah, totally, huge deal. And I think this game is for you, but I think Despelote is for you because you are also a sports documentary person. In the sense that you like to watch.
Caroline especially, she loves a sports doc.
So like this is, I wouldn't call it that, but it is autobiographical. It is about you are in first person and you're in this kind of, the art style is very arresting in the sense that characters are like 2D drawings, but the world is, it almost feels like it's FMV with like a heavy filter over everything. Like it is super grainy, the environments, and everything has a like single color palette across it, but it feels like a real city just like kind of pasted over in a sense.
You don't mean film grain?
I guess it is film grain to some degree, yes. But it's even more grainy than that. It's even denser than that, right? And the way that it covers everything. And I remember looking at it and being like, I really love the way this thing looks. But playing it does make a lot of sense, and it contextualizes itself well. And I think it gives that sense of nostalgia and that like half remembered memory, right? Like, because this game is about the main character is based on the developer of the game, who talks about like their childhood growing up in Ecuador. So it's based in South America. They grew up in Ecuador, and football was obviously a big thing in South America, right? Brazil, one of the biggest.
Where do they live now?
I'm not sure actually. I haven't looked into that.
Okay.
But yeah, they grew up there, and the game is essentially a 2-hour narrative game that walks through like the journey that the Ecuadorian football team went on to get to the World Cup in 1999, basically. So it goes through like their qualifying matches, and it's basically there's like 5 matches.
The World Cup was 98. I think.
98, sorry. Yeah, so it must have been 98 in that case. So it goes through their qualifying matches leading up to it, and then them getting into the World Cup. And then, they lose. They go out in the first round, but everyone's like, oh, they were amazing. They managed to get there. But I think it's all about the qualifying matches leading up to getting into the World Cup. And so you have 5 matches. And so each of these like mini chapters is centered around each of those matches happening. And so like you're walking around this town doing stuff. You're playing with your friends. You're a kid. You're kicking the football around. And as you're like walking through this area, you can like turn and the TV is on, and you can see like an FMV sequence of the actual match in real time playing, and it will tell you the timer on the clock of like, oh, they're in the 74th minute of the match right now. And as you watch it, as you're kind of like there, you could just stand there and watch it basically for like 20 minutes. Basically each of these sequences, you have a timer. Your parents like, oh right, be back in here for 6:30, and you can like look down at your watch and see what time it is. So you could just sit there and watch a football match for the whole time, and you could just not interact with anything. It's a legitimate thing you could do.
I mean, it's like, and then I got really into football.
Right, yeah,
and
yeah.
Bally, I'm pleased to say, I went back. I watched Celtic this weekend. It was a great game.
No, but yeah. So you're running around and you're just like kind of interacting with the environment. It's quite impressive from like a mechanic standpoint in the sense that you are kicking this football in first person, and that is a lot harder than I think it sounds, in the sense of like, I was quite impressed by how they were able to pull this off, like the way that the ball kind of stays magnetically to you, and like you're dribbling it and you kind of keep it in your purview, and you kind of have to hold down one of the sticks to like charge up and then kick it. And so, you know, at the beginning, one of the first things you do is like a group of friends comes around, they're like, oh, let's go and try and kick these bottles off the wall. And there I am spending like 10 minutes trying to fucking hit the fucking bottles because, you know, trying to get the aim correct and trying to, you know, shoot it. It's quite challenging. And so, yeah, I think it was very well done from a mechanic standpoint, but I think it's really just a snapshot of life, basically. It's like a snapshot of like these few weeks in this period of time in South America where the entire country is just obsessed with football, and everyone is talking about it, and everyone is like involved with it, and you are, you know, you're getting the story of him and his family and his sister and everything. And yeah, I think it's really well done. I definitely would recommend it as a short game that is very easy to digest, and yeah, it just has a very cool story to tell, which I very much thought was well executed. So, and also the developer kind of like narrates over the top as well. So he's kind of like, you know, looking back at the past, talking about it, and he says during the game, like, he was like, you know, I was actually only about 5 during this time, but like I made the character like 8 years old, 9 years old, just because it better represented the feeling of that time period, basically.
Interesting.
Of like, because he wasn't as cognizant then, but like he just remembered the feeling, and he was trying to distill that feeling basically through this character.
Do you have like an earliest sporting memory?
It's a great question. I guess like from a personal, like me doing sports perspective, probably like the fucking sandbag jumping when we were kids or whatever it was called, the potato sack jumping. That
I meant watching a sport event, but that's a good one.
Yeah,
too, yeah.
Well, so I was saying like me doing something, but watching a sporting event. I mean, the first time I went and saw Celtic at fucking what's it called? You know, the park.
Celtic Park.
Yeah. Because we went with me and my dad went with Charlie and his dad, and the thing I remember about it the most, and the thing that is the best thing about Celtic Park to this day, is the fucking Scotch pie. So it was the first time I had a Scotch pie, and I bit into that Scotch pie, and I was like, oh my god, I've gone to heaven. This is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And from then on, I was like, right, Scotch pies, that's it, mate. That's my
Scotch
Mount
pies
Rushmore.
are good. All right, explain to someone who has no idea what a Scotch pie is. What is a Scotch pie?
Oh my god, it is the greasiest thing you have seen in your life. It is like a fried, it's a pastry, but the pastry is very dense, and it is just meat inside of pastry, essentially. It is peppery meat in like a kind of crusty exterior with like a soft interior, and it's just the best thing in the world. Scotch pies are phenomenal. So yeah, Scotch pies are very much the thing that I associate with Celtic and with going and seeing those matches in person.
My earliest sporting memory, I have zero memory of the 98 World Cup, by the way. Zero. Like, absolutely nothing.
Oh, so the only memory I have is that I was in France when France won in 98.
Oh,
and so all I remember is my dad telling me, like, the reason all these cars are honking, because the cars were honking non-stop in the street, and he was like, oh, they just won the football. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? But that was my memory, is like cars going fucking crazy in Paris because France had just won the World Cup, basically.
You'll love my story when
Okay.
I tell it. Right. 2002 World Cup. It was in Korea and Japan.
Yes.
England versus Brazil in the... Was it the quarters or was it the first knockout round? Anyway, it was like getting close to the semi-final or whatever. And we went to a very English school at the time, in Edinburgh. But our teacher said, right, everyone come through to the common room or whatever. We're going to watch England versus Brazil. But before you go, I need to know who's supporting England. And like most of the class like raised their hand and whatever. And who's supporting Brazil? And then myself and Charlie and Colin put up our hands saying, yeah, Brazil, because we're just, well, someone might say narrow-minded Scots, but I just think that, yeah, I don't know. It's a sporting rivalry between Scotland and England, okay? Like, you can't support England.
So since a very young age, you've always hated the English.
Since a very young age. And this is from someone, like, my parents are Scottish. I was born in England, but I've lived most of my life in Edinburgh and Scotland. But anyway, I feel very Scottish, so I was not having it that I was going to be supporting England. And what was the punishment from this teacher? Oh yeah, everyone supporting Brazil can sit right at the back of the common room. We got like the worst seats in the house to watch England-Brazil. Amazing. But who won the match? Brazil.
Yeah, of course.
It's all good. It's all good.
It all worked in the end.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
But yeah, Despelote. If you like things like. I would recommend this to people who just like narrative things, honestly. I think it's just a good narrative game. And so get over your bias like I did of hating football or whatever. I think it's really well constructed little game. So yeah, definitely if you get some time before the end of the year, Bally, then it's very quick. It's 2 hours maximum. So
yeah. Sounds good.
Despelote. Cool. Bally, you have another shorter game that you played.
Yes. Just trying to fill out that GOTY to Coty list. We're getting close to December. This is a game you played a little bit ago and had a good time. That is Lego A Builder's Journey. I was playing this game on Steam Deck. I think what's so cool for many people, including yourself, Amy said, with this game was, wow, it's pretty. Wow, it's got the
ray tracing and all that stuff on PC looked pretty crazy.
Yeah, when I booted up the game, all that stuff is turned on, and it was kind of looking very Vaseline-y, the game. I was like, oh, this looks a bit. I need to fiddle around with some settings and things because this is looking rough. So there are essentially about 4, 5, 6 different ray tracing toggles in this game. I turned them all off and the game looked considerably better. So I have to put my hands up and say I was probably not playing this on the best platform. I think if you got a bit more oomph, I mean, the game might even look better on like a PS5 compared to like a Steam Deck. I don't know. Yeah, so
I think it does. Yeah, I think the PS5 version is probably the way to go with it. But
on top of that, I would argue that the game was something a bit finicky without the mouse controls. Like I was just using the controller and.
Oh, interesting. Because I believe I used a controller when I played it even on PC. So
oh, interesting. Yeah. Right. I didn't think so you're focusing on bricks that you're then moving around and placing, and I've felt that like the game highlighting bricks wasn't always the most clear, especially in like dark locations and things, but once I toggled around with the settings and now that I'm a PC gamer, I had to do all these things, fiddle with.
There we go, we're getting him, boys. It's happening. You will own a PC one day.
Reluctantly doing it to make the game playable is not what I would call my idea of fun, but I got there in the end. I got it looking nice, and I think this game is really cool. I think the vibes are just incredible. I think the music, the pacing of it is very simple. So what are you doing in this game? You are playing through these neat little dioramas, and you're basically like, it's like a parent and a child, or just like a leader and a follower.
Yes, it's a dad game. Lego Builder's Journey is just like God of War. It's a dad game.
Yeah, it's a dad game. And it might be like, oh yeah, let's build a bridge to get across this stream. And there'll be certain bricks you can pick up in the environment and place. And it'll make it quite clear what you can interact with and can't. And you're like, right, I'm building a bridge. And sometimes it'll build bricks in place of you, and it's a puzzle game. Like there's different mechanisms on different levels, the way in which the bricks will either place themselves or like you're placing them and then working with the environment, as it were. And then like a bridge will appear, and then you will cross the bridge, and then you move on to the next like little diorama, and so on and so on. And there's maybe like, I don't know, 60 or so dioramas in the whole game. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to beat. And I think what this game made me feel really nostalgic for Lego bricks. And I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but I was like lifting a brick and just placing it in certain ways and just thinking, God, this feels like my childhood right now. And and what are we doing in this game? Oh, it's like a father son, and like I could teach Bally Jr. about Lego, and we can build bridges together. And it's like, oh my God, this is bringing feelings that I just wasn't expecting. Like it's very, very emotive, I think, in certain ways. And I think that the game does get a little bit finicky at points. It's not always clear what to do next. It's one of those puzzle games where I load up the entire game on YouTube and I'll just scroll through at certain points just to work out where I'm meant to go next whenever I get stuck. I also like doing that because it gives me an idea of like how far through the game I actually am, which is nice. And yeah, it's really cool. There's like factories you go in and different systems that you are enacting, and there's certain times where like there's one area where you're like building like it's like a sand castle, like a little castle, and then the game takes you elsewhere and you do all these other things, but then you come back to like this castle and there's like this feeling of nostalgia about the exact thing that you just built. And it's one of those things that you can build. I think you can build it any way you want to, and then the game will come back and show you like how you built it, the kind of thing. It's like, that's really nice. Like it's doing something with Lego that is so emotive, that is just completely different to any other Lego game, that I think is so interesting. It's not, they've pumped a hell of a lot more emotion into this game than I thought they would. I thought it was going to be a lot more like, here's a diorama, how do you get from A to B? Boom, 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 there we go, move on. Puzzle game. I was thinking it'd be quite synthetic, light-hearted puzzle game music, and it's not. It's like this, like
very somber, sad,
somber. Yeah, it's like, wow. And there's highs, there's lows, there's, you know, it's a lot.
I recall like the water being very strong in this game. You know, we all talk about best looking water. I mean, what they do with Lego bricks to make water look luscious in this game is kind of astonishing.
It's really cool. And then you're building contraptions that lead to things and other things, and it's, if you have any appreciation growing up with Lego and Lego bricks, I would highly recommend this game. And I think that probably applies to most people. But certainly I was huge into Lego. We both were for a long time, and it's just kind of like, once you've been through all those years of having these physical bricks in your fingers, to be, you know, doing that, like, I think if this game was like in VR, it would have had me like in tears. Like putting these bricks together. But yeah, it's just like, there's something so visceral about putting these bricks. And I think what's also key is like the sound design on the placement of bricks, and when bricks break, and then the collapsing of things and bridges and things toppling over, and that sound of like, wow, they've really got that plastic sound. Interestingly, like, there was a legal challenge against the Lego company saying like, right, game's over, stop making bricks out of plastic. You need to work out how to make biodegradable bricks.
Oh wow, okay.
And Lego were just like, yeah, we've tried and we can't, so too bad, bye. And it's like, I wonder if part of that decision was, if we lose the sound of bricks clattering against a hard surface in the same way, we might be ruining our brand. Like, there's something about the sound that I'm sure they are very into. And
I mean, it's like, it's similar with Nintendo and the Switch. Like, Switch 2 had to have a sound association, otherwise you lose that brand recognition of what is the Switch.
Yeah. And famously, that 2x4 brick, which I think was one of the first bricks Lego ever created, they've not changed the design of that brick in their entire existence as a company.
Right.
Like, there's something very like, we have to build bricks this exact way. Like, this is how we do it. And it's a very strange company. It's a very strange idea. But I just think this game is so good at celebrating Lego, making Lego emotive, doing something that's not just, I don't know, Lego Horizon or Lego Star Wars. Like, this is Lego for the sake of Lego, which I feel like there's not many games about. And I think that's really cool. So I would highly recommend this game. Maybe don't play it on Steam Deck unless you're willing to toggle around things like I did, but it still played really great. I still think it works fine. And yeah, there's that like co-op game that's come out this year, MBZ.
Yes, which I would like to play at some point. And it is what you call it, Friends Pass, basically. So I actually have it through the BAFTA stuff. So Bally, I will need to judge that at some point. So I obligate you. You are obligated.
How are you going to judge
exactly?
It?
So Bally, you have to actually now play this with me. So I'm sorry for that, but yeah, it has to be done. Yeah.
But I think that co-op game's not got quite the level of reviews as Builder's Journey, to my knowledge.
No, I think it only just came out. I think the reception has been pretty good too. I think it's called Voyager. Voyages, right? Lego Voyages.
Right.
And it seems a little more lighthearted in that the Lego bricks have like googly eyes on them, basically. So it feels more of a like fun co-op adventure. But it has similar vibes though in terms of what it's going for.
I think that's something important to say about the father and son is they're not Lego people. They what a Lego person looks like. They have a distinct bricks, and that's like a head brick. That's a hand brick. They've got a body brick. They've got leg bricks. The father and son in this game are not designed using a head brick and a leg brick, and they're their own creations, which I think is a really bold choice. Because I think that's been a criticism of Lego with certain sets is like, I don't want to build the Death Star if I have a brick that is just the exact laser that's on the Death Star. I want like to build the actual laser on the Death Star, and that kind of thing. Fewer customizable bricks. You want more traditional.
Yeah, the characters are built as like they're almost like stickmen in a sense. Like they're like single line characters. Like they're like 3 bricks stacked on another 2 thin bricks, then like a little kind of round one at the top that is like a cylinder essentially that represents their head. But like they communicate that they are people through the kind of just the imagination in a sense, right? Of like what these bricks represent. Yeah. Which I think is very cool. So
it's just a very bold take for this game, and goes back to that whole we want to play with emotion, we want to move away from what we've done with other Lego video games, and like we're going to go to our building roots, fathers and sons, and teaching them about building. This is there's a huge vibe of that to this game that I think is very, very fun. Very impressed. I think this game is fun.
Nice.
It's worth checking out.
Yeah. I was watching some footage of it, and I'm like, actually, Bally, I'm pretty sure I did play this with a mouse. Having looked at it now, I was like, right, yeah, because you are just moving these pieces around for the most part. So I'm pretty sure I did do that with a mouse.
It's got a pretty impressive limited button set, even for a controller, but it's still a little bit finicky.
Yeah.
And I think I just would have felt more comfortable.
Switch 2, baby.
There are those like mouse
Go on,
pads
put it on
the
Switch 2,
Steam
give it
Deck,
mouse mode, and have that working.
Switch 2.
Great.
The mouse pad things on Steam Deck are fine, but they're not as good as a mouse. So,
kind of not exactly what you need, really.
Not the same.
So,
yeah.
For a game like this. Alas. But yeah, it's good. It's a very good game. Glad you got around to it. Cool. I've got a couple more things. Don't have a huge amount to say about them, but PowerWash Sim 2 came out. It's more PowerWash Sim, so that's my review of the game. PowerWash Sim is the best podcast game that has ever been made, that might ever be made in my lifetime.
Forza Horizon.
Yeah, I mean, that's good, but there is a degree to which Forza Horizon, there are missions where I have to pause my podcast because they're saying stuff to me, and I kind of want to hear what they say sometimes.
It can get a bit talky.
Exactly. There is enough mission and talkiness that I do have to pause it. What I define as a perfect podcast game is where I do not have to care at all about any narrative stuff or story.
Hey, are you going to the festival at 6 tonight? We're going to be there. We're going to turn up in our sports cars, and it's going to be great.
So there's no one chatting in my ear. The worst PowerWash Sim does is like it'll pop a text message on the side from some guy, all of which I ignore, by the way. I have not read a single thing in this game in terms of like the story it's trying to tell me. There's a whole furniture thing they added to this. Like you have a home base where you can like buy furniture and set it up. I've ignored that completely. I go level to level, and honestly, I haven't even really changed what I do that much, because like there are lots of different nozzles, right? So part of the upgrade loop of PowerWash Sim is like, you have different like strengths and different like spreads of spray. So like the white spray is very wide and it covers a wide area, but it's not very strong, so it takes a while to like cut away at dirt. Versus the red one, which is like a thin jet spray that is a tiny surface area but extremely powerful, and so it will burst everything off. I play on the yellow spray, which is one up from red, so it has a pretty small surface area, but when it touches a wall, it basically vaporizes everything on there. And 90% of PowerWash Sim and PowerWash Sim 2 is me on the yellow nozzle, never changing it, never upgrading all these like length things or like spread things. I'm like, nope, I'm just going to do that. And the only thing I upgrade is the strength of my washer, basically. So as soon as I get enough money to get a more powerful washer, I do that, and then I keep using the yellow again, you know? So like, wow. I am very like rigid with this. I like the way it works. I like the way it effectively gets away dirt. And there is one big change in PowerWash Sim 2, which is they now have a surface cleaner. So it's like a big circle that you kind of put on the ground, and it's basically a Hoover. It's basically like you're vacuuming up on the floor, and that has been quite useful because there are some levels that are quite wide on like a surface area perspective. Like the ground is, I just did a gas station, and the gas station is just like, the whole area is just fully covered in dirt on the floor, like around where you would like put everything into your car. And so I was just like hoovering with that because it's a lot more effective and more efficient than using the regular spray. So I basically only use that when I need to. Otherwise, I'm on the fucking yellow spray, and that's the only thing I use the whole time. And it is glorious. It's great. It is so relaxing and therapeutic to just spray things and clean it up and have the satisfaction of like the percentage ticking away. They have really increased the quality of life. I think one of the issues with PowerWash 1 is I found myself trying to find where the last piece of dirt was, even though it has a system of you like tapping a button to be like, show me where the remaining dirt is. So that was there, but I always felt like I had to be so completely thorough to clean an area. This game is more forgiving, it feels like, in terms of, you got like 96%. Yeah, sure, you're done, basically. So
that's nice.
It's a little bit easier. And then the big change is like they have basically like a reticle that when you're on the final bits and it says 99%, but you have like 5 tiny things left, it will point you to every single spot that you are missing. It will show you which piece of the environment has not been fully cleaned, and you can just go around, nip around, and just finish them all up. And it is such a smoother experience than the first game, where I would go insane because I was like, I'm tapping it, but I'm like, I don't know which piece. Like, you would have to go in the menu and click the piece, and then it would highlight the piece. Like, now it just has a reticle that hovers in the environment over the piece that needs to be done, and it just saves so much time. So that has been a much smoother experience. I think I'm like 10 or 12 levels in, and there's like 40, and I've already played like over 10 hours of this game. So, you know, it's probably going to be one that I just chip away at for a long period of time. It's not a game that I'm like here to finish. It's a game that I'm like, oh, I've got a lot of podcasts to listen to. Let me just do something else while I listen to those podcasts, basically. And I mean, it's great. It's exactly what I want out of a sequel, which is rare these days. Nice. You know, like I think a lot of people are talking about sequels and they're like, do something innovative, surprise me. You know, like I feel like I've dropped off Ghost of Yotei significantly, partially because I have
took the words right out of my mouth.
No, well, partially about that. You know, haven't mentioned this on the show, but I'm trying to get into a flat at the moment, and at a point in time when I am in a flat and I have a giant TV, I actually kind of want something as an excuse to make that thing be worthwhile, and so I'm like, well, there's no other big Sony games on a sofa that are going to come out soon, so maybe I just won't finish Ghost of Yotei, and I'll just wait until I have that set up with the big TV, and then I'll finish Ghost of Yotei.
We could wait till Wolverine and see someone's face get ripped off in 4 million pixels or whatever.
Yeah, totally. So I think I might not finish Ghost of Yotei this year, just so that when I do get that big TV and I can do that, then I'll probably
I've beaten Ghost of Yotei, and I will share my thoughts on our Nintendo show.
Yeah,
but we'll get there.
We will get there. But anyway, so yes, what was I saying about Power? I don't know why I suddenly went to that for some reason.
It's the best podcasting game. Sequels and iterations.
Right, that's it. Sequels, right, yes. So that was my point. It's like, I'm going to lambast Ghost of Yotei for being the same thing that I've seen 100 times. Meanwhile, I'm like, yum, PowerWash Sim, it's the same thing, you know? Like, and it's a very different thing, right? It's a very different thing. So I think it makes sense that that's kind of my stance. Reviews have not been great from player perspective. I think because this one had co-op from the beginning, and it sounds like multiplayer implementation is really bad, so people are mad about it. And then also it doesn't have rebinding of keys either, so you can't rebind controls, and so people are mad about that on Steam as well. So anyway, people are mad about things that actually don't affect my enjoyment in any way. So I'm totally cool with PowerWash Sim 2. I think it's great so far, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah, just give me more fun things to clean up, and I will be all for it. I'll be here all day, every day to just keep cleaning until the cows come home. So, yep, loving that. And then the other game was a little shooter, a little shmup. I've never been good at shmups. I've always been very into them as an idea though, because they're the kind of video game that you can finish in like for me in a sitting going to the toilet, which I have in fact done once. There's a game called Musha that was put on the Switch Online service for the Genesis, I want to say, and when I was taking a shit, I finished the entire game, I remember, for that. So that's the kind of experience that these shmups are, is like if you have the save states and you have a way of doing it, then you can get through them. So Earthion is a new shmup that has come out that is also playable on original hardware. So the soundtrack is done by Yuzo Koshiro, famous composer from all the way back in the day, and has done many modern ones as well. I think he worked on Streets of Rage, and I believe he did some stuff for Streets of Rage 4. Yeah, he worked on this alongside another well-known Japanese developer whose name I forget now, but two of them kind of like worked on this project together. And so Earthion is a traditional side-scrolling shooter, space shooter, and you can play it on regular consoles, on modern hardware, or they are releasing a physical cartridge that you can then go and put into your old fucking Sega console and play it on there as well, which I think is very cool. And I think that's something that is coming more and more into vogue now, as people like making old games for old hardware, but then kind of releasing them to people as well on regular modern ways to play things. So I really had a good time with this. I think it's one of those things where I wanted to see it through, and so I was like, right, I'm going to put it on the easiest difficulty, and I'm going to give myself the most lives possible. So in the menu, you can kind of change like how many lives do I have before I then game over and then have to restart each level. And so I maxed that out, and then I put it on easy. And even by the end, I was on my last continue basically at the final boss, and I managed to do it in one run through. It is the type of game that a lot of people will go back to and like replay again and again to get high scores and do on higher difficulties. For me, I just like the experience of like going through, fighting bosses, seeing all the levels, like seeing all the power-ups, all that sort of stuff. Just very, very pretty from a pixel art perspective. I think it does a very good job. I think it has the issue that all these games have, which is I have no fucking idea what is supposed to kill me and what isn't. Like seeing your own bullets versus the enemy's bullets, because there's so much shit just blasting on the screen that you're like, I don't know how I'm alive now, but somehow I am, basically. So it has that experience to it. But
I'm having that feeling with the final boss in Hades too.
Oh, interesting. Yes, yeah. It's definitely.
Like, I can't see what's happening on the screen.
Yeah. I think eventually you get to a point where that is much more legible, and you'll be okay. Right. But Earthion is it's very much in the mold of that traditional kind of shmup, which is okay. There's bullets flying everywhere, and you're trying to get through. And
there was a modern feeling shmup that came out this year that I do want to check out. The shmup roguelike.
Oh yes, the one that Donkey's publishing from Big Mode. It is, I can't remember the name of it, but yes, I know.
Star of Providence.
Star of Providence, yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it looks really good. I want to check that game out maybe next year or something.
It's got very good reviews. Yeah, it sounds like it's an excellent game. So I also have that on my wish list, and we'll probably get to it at some point. But yeah, I mean, this is a very cool thing, and I very much enjoyed running through it, and I might just boot it up every now and again to just get a little bit of that shmup action, because I've not talked about it on the show, but I spent a lot of time last year trying to play Radiant Silvergun and not being able to finish Radiant Silvergun, because it might be the hardest video game ever made, maybe. Like, I don't know how regular people play that and finish it without like cheating or trying to do the easiest thing or using like I was using save states and I still could not finish Radiant Silvergun. That's how fucking difficult Radiant Silvergun is. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I feel like I would love to be a shmup person. I'm just nowhere near good enough at these games to be that person. So I love them, but I'm terrible is what I'm saying. So won't stop me from playing them though. So that is Earthion. So check it out. It's everywhere. That's going to do us, however, for the first part of today's show. We'll be back after the break, though, with some of your emails. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the second part of today's show. It is time again for some emails. Thank you for everyone who wrote in. If you would like to send an email into the show, please email ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. And we also have a Discord server. There's a channel on there that says emails. You can post your comments, your questions over in there, which is what I think people today did, didn't they, MBZ? So
they did, yes. All these from
it's
Discord today.
Our first question this time is from Jasmine from Leicester in the United Kingdom. Hello guys, a few questions tonight inspired by my playthrough of Expedition 33. So this is kind of, Jasmine's got an initial question that we're going to answer, and then there's another question that Jasmine asks that links to another email that we will do after the first question. So first question: how do you guys decide which games to do a spoiler cast on? I know podcasting time for Bally is limited now, which I presume is shortening an already short list of potential spoiler castable games.
We kind of like decide dependent, right? I think there are certain games that warrant it and it makes sense to, because there is a lot to talk about, a lot to dig into from either a narrative perspective or from like a surprise perspective, which I think are the two kind of strands when we're talking about, Nintendo games, really. Like, I mean, surprise is really we didn't do a full Donkey Kong Bonanza spoiler cast. We did do a segment on Donkey Kong Bonanza that was, let's talk about all the fun things at the end and all the things that happen, basically, which is kind of like, a Nintendo spoiler cast is quite different, I would say, just because Nintendo games are not narrative focused for the most part. And so when it comes to like the big tentpole Nintendo game, like, look, we never did a Tears of the Kingdom spoiler cast. That was mainly because of just timing, I would say. But I think it's a few factors. It's timing, it is relevancy, and it is passion as well. It's like, how much do we want to talk about it, right? How much do we want to say? How much can we get out of it in particular? And so, yeah, I think that's the thing that usually drives it. Like the Hollow Knight one that I did with Matt was just born out of a desire to be like, I have to just talk about this stuff because there's just so much going on and I just need to get it out there. And you can't really do that in a regular format because there's so much depth to go into with that game in particular and how many things there are to discuss. So yeah, I think that makes sense when it's those types of situations. And then it's one like Expedition 33, which is very narrative heavy, and we both very much enjoyed that. And I think it was a little trickier with that one because Bally took a while to finish it, and so by the time we got around to it, my memory was a bit spottier on it, generally speaking. I think the best spoiler casts tend to happen when they're quite fresh and we can kind of jump in having just finished it immediately and going into it. But it was still worth doing because I think there's a lot to dig into and discuss there as well. So So yeah, it kind of varies based on the kind of like also the audience, like not necessarily like if people are going to listen to it or not, because I think we have generally done spoiler casts on things that people would like. We did an Eastward one, I want to say, and that was not a game that a lot of people played, but we just did it because we wanted to, and there was a lot for us to say. So sometimes that is the case, but I think there's a lot of factors there. Would you say anything else regarding that?
Yeah, I'd agree with your points, MZ, and yes, I think even in non-young kid times, it can be difficult keeping up with MZ and his gaming speed at certain points. Like, I think I beat Expedition 33 in like 2.5 months or something. Two months, which for like a 30 to 40 hour game, I don't think it's that bad, but it was still...
No, I finished it in a week.
Exactly. So I was never going to get anywhere near that. It's what we can fit in, what we have passion for. If I can't beat something in time, or I'm not going to beat it, then MZ can jump on in with someone else and have a good discussion about that. And that kind of is what works. There's not a format as such. It's just where and when we can.
I think it's quite clear at some point when you have gotten through Hades 2 that we'll want to have a discussion about that, right? I think there's enough to dig into there, both from a mechanical and narrative standpoint, to where we want to go more in depth about that game because we both very much enjoy it. And so, there's certain ones that just make a lot of sense that will be logical. And then, there's other ones that sometimes pop up and surprise you. And it's like, oh shit, we love this thing, but it kind of necessitates a spoiler conversation around it, so we kind of have to do that as its own separate kind of breakout. But I would say like there's definitely, I think we're more often likely to just tack on a segment at the end of a show to be like, hey, we're going to talk about this for 20 minutes just because there's some stuff we want to say about it, and it's spoilery, so we'll leave it till the end so that people can leave and come back. And
I think that's something I wish more other podcasts did. I think there's often a discussion in the industry right now like, oh, but unless it's got a narrative, there aren't really spoilers. And it's like, as we're Nintendo gamers and would fundamentally disagree with that. And I think bosses, mechanics, areas, these are all very spoilery things depending on the game. And I think that I would like to see a podcasting environment that was just more bold about like, we're up until this point, non-spoilers, and then past that point, we're going to talk about all the bosses, all the areas, willy-nilly. And I think that's nice for the people who have experienced those bosses and those areas and all these things, or the mechanics in Donkey Kong Bonanza, for example. Like, I think that I've not really heard many podcast discussions discuss some of the later bonanzas in that game, but we did because we want to. And I think it's important that, like, yes, I want things that are a little bit spoilery, like later game bonanzas, to not be mentioned, but I still want a discussion about those bonanzas. They just need to be maybe timestamped or something. And I think a lot of podcasts just say, we'll stay vague and move on. And I think that's a bit of a shame sometimes. I think that pretty much defines it. Our next question from Jasmine, and this links to another question from another listener, is, this question has probably been answered before, but just in case, how do you guys feel about difficulty in games? I played Expedition 33 on the easy mode after first attempting on normal and realizing there was no way I was going to finish/enjoy it. I suggested this game to a friend and they said they didn't like the combat. Turns out they were playing on normal and were struggling with the timings for parry and dodge, therefore getting killed within seconds. When I suggested playing on easy, I was met with such an objection you'd think I'd suggested playing the game on the moon or something. They were almost offended at the mere suggestion. Why do you think people, even casual gamers like my friend, have such an objection to playing on easy? I have no such qualms. Life is stressful enough. I want my free time to be as enjoyable as possible. Final question. Have you guys ever done a New Game Plus run of a game? If so, how soon do you do it after finishing the original story? As always, sorry it ends up so long. One question just leads to another. Thank you for an excellent show and keep up the great work. And then Flapjackal emailed with a very similar question saying, after recently switching to the story mode in Clair Obscura because I really want to... Is Jasmine's friend Flapjackal? Because I really want to complete the story of the game, I wanted to ask your takes on game difficulties and where you generally play at. Do you default to whatever it starts you on? Do you start on easy or story modes and change it if you want a challenge? Or are you like my friends who start on the hardest difficulty and then stop playing and complain about the game when you hit a roadblock? Aside from your difficulty standards, just your takes on implementing difficulty levels or even wider parameters, like South of Midnight's boss skipping, would be neat to hear. Well then, right, difficulty.
Yeah. Yes. We'll quickly do the New Game Plus question, which is to say, I have started I wouldn't say New Game Plus. I remember, so the closest I've gotten to committing to it was Triangle Strategy. I finished Triangle Strategy and I was like, right, let's jump back in. And I did start again because of the branching narrative of that game and how it changes the different maps that you end up doing based on the choices that you make. So I was like, oh, maybe I will. And then I realized I don't have another 70 hours to play more Triangle Strategy. It already took me 50 hours in the first place. But that was one, I think that's the only time I can recall of immediately going, yeah, okay, let's do it again. I guess it's not really the same, but 100 Line this year is a game that is kind of built on the idea of New Game Plus to some degree, even though it's not. It's like you have to keep playing through it with all the iterations, and the way that it works is just built into the games. I wouldn't really call that New Game Plus, honestly. Yeah, I don't think I feel like if I was to do a New Game Plus, it would be coming back to the game later and saying, okay, I'm going to jump back in and do this, couple years down the line, as opposed to immediately, because I really don't understand people who play a game and who start it immediately after finishing it again. Like, to me, it feels like it feels like you're still 6 years old, where you just watch the same thing like 12 times in a row. Like, I've always found that an odd behavioral trait to carry forward into adulthood, but everyone's different. So I don't know. It's a little odd to me that people are just like, I finished that thing, let's do it again. So anyway.
I don't think I've ever started a New Game Plus. Can you think of one I would have started? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many games you've played that have New Game Plus, really, because New Game Plus is really more of an RPG thing, I would say, because the idea is that you kind of take your fully leveled character and you then are able to start playing it with a much higher level of efficiency because you're just more powerful. I guess Elden Ring I didn't start a New Game Plus, and I was glad I didn't, because then I could start Shadow the Erdtree with my regular character who I finished the game with. But that's one I know a lot of people did, which I think is a bit more understandable with Elden Ring, just because of all the permutations in terms of different build variety you can have. And also New Game Plus and Elden Ring seems to be a lot faster because of how strong you are from the beginning of that going into a new run of it. But yeah, I don't know, Bally.
I'm just going to claim I've never even started one. Maybe if I have, I've just completely forgotten. But yeah, no, not me.
Right.
Not
exactly.
my cup of tea. Difficulty. I'm Vanilla Bally. I like playing games the way the developer intends them to be played on normal. That is my default. That is what I go to. I don't think I've ever turned a game's difficulty up, but I think there's plenty of challenging games I've played on normal that I've been reluctant to turn down, because I really do enjoy trying to bang my head up against the brick wall trying to do it. I think from this year, Clair Obscur would be an example. I think my strategy was very early game. There's some kind of mini bosses that can wipe you out incredibly quickly very early in the game. And I just kept fighting those mini bosses again and again and again and again. And I was like, oh my God, and all of a sudden I just started like parrying and dodging, and it all started clicking. And I think that I would have preferred to do that rather than lower the difficulty. Now, what are my reasons for not lowering the difficulty? Pride and ego definitely come into it.
100%, yes.
I definitely can't put my hands up and say they don't. But also, I think there's just like it's part of me that always wants to get better at games, and I think that the more you're challenging yourself, the better you're going to get. And I like the idea. I want to be a good gamer, and again, ego, totally, hands up, big head. But I want to get better at the game, and I'm only going to get better at the game if I keep losing. What Ash Ketchum said, you learn more by losing than by winning. And I think that going through certain games and tough processes early on, Nine Souls is another example. I think difficulty is a bit more. That's a larger core part of that game compared to Expedition 33. Mm-hmm. But even early game in Nine Souls is this game is kicking my ass. But that's what I wanted. I wanted a hard game.
Yeah, totally.
And I have I ever turned a game's difficulty down? Sure, but it's normally like, I don't know, Last of Us Part 1 or something, just to be like, I don't want crazy zombies in my face. I just want to get through this. I want to enjoy the story. I think that's my main reason for turning difficulty down, is I don't need all this other fluff in my life. Let's just enjoy a story, which sounds exactly like what Jasmine has said about Expedition 33, which I think is very understandable, because I think the game is pretty challenging, especially early on, to be honest. Like, but
I think the game actually gets quite easy by the end of it, to be honest. Like, especially if you do anything in even if you just do like the Mael side quest in Act 3, you go into that final boss fight and you're like, oh well, I guess I killed him in one shot. Okay, whoops. Well, that's unfortunate. The balancing gets a little bit out of whack, and I think generally why I don't like the back half of JRPGs, because they're the more open, like non-linear paths that are harder to balance properly. So yeah, it's always been an issue, I would say, across the genre. But yeah, for me, in terms of difficulty, I like hard stuff when it's a type of game that I appreciate the difficulty, and that's part of the reason I'm playing it. And so it is always genre by genre for me. I think Celeste is a great example of a game where its message is tied to its difficulty. And so even if I didn't love 2D platformers and the challenge they provide, and that specific type of masochistic platformer provides, I think I would probably still stick with the difficulty of Celeste, because that is what its intentional design is. And they say it at the beginning. They say, hey, look, we've got accessibility things in here. If you want to use them, go ahead. But please just try playing it the way that we've intended for it to be designed, because it is part of the story, right? You are climbing the mountain, and climbing the mountain is hard, and it's full of adversity, and that is what the character is going through, and that is what they want to reflect in the player as you are going through that journey. So I think there are certain games to where it makes sense, but I think that Celeste does the smart thing of, like, it's not forcing you to, and I think that's where the whole FromSoft difficulty conversation gets very messy, is that, you know, I think that a FromSoft game with accessibility features like Celeste would be totally cool, and I don't think that would take anything away from people who want to beat it at the hardest core possible difficulty, right? Like, you know, there are people who are playing Elden Ring who are like, oh, you've not really beaten it if you use summons, and I'm like, well, they put summons in the game for a reason, because the game is balanced around using them, right? Like, they've balanced the game to be enjoyable around summoning things to help you fight these enemies. So, like, if that's what the developer has said, that's what they want to do, that's how the game is. And so, yeah, I think there is obviously, like, the challenge of FromSoft games is a thing that is part of their intended design, but I don't think that it has to be. And I think that, you know, it's totally cool if people want to have accessibility stuff. People mod it on PC if not, right? Like, there's plenty of mods you can go and get.
Like, Silksong doesn't have difficulty, does it?
No, Silksong doesn't. I mean, this was the whole conversation when Silksong came out. People were being like, oh, I went on... The most downloaded mod for Silksong is the mod that stops you taking 2 masks of damage in that game, and gives you 1 mask instead. And so, yeah, Silksong's a great example of a game where you and I were like, hell yeah, difficulty. Let's go for these bosses. Let's fight them again and again. And a lot of people are like, fuck this. I hate this. I don't like this. And I think it's just, it's reflected in the style. Like, I am always going to enjoy difficulty more in 2D games because I'm better at 2D games, generally speaking, and I like the challenge in 2D games. 3D games, not so much, you know? Like, a great example is the new Wolfenstein games, the modern Wolfenstein games. I really like the challenge of a first-person shooter in multiplayer, playing against other people, and I have fun being like, oh my god, I managed to kill a real person, and like trying to get better at a multiplayer shooter. I really like single-player shooters. I find them kind of frustrating. Like, there are certain types of games that I don't mind replaying a section if I die. Replaying a first-person shooter section after I die, I always feel is the worst thing in the world. And I don't know why this is, but I'm like, oh, I have to go through that again. And so I really don't enjoy replaying those types of games, which is why whenever I play a single-player shooter, I put it to easy, and I lean into the power fantasy, right? And Wolfenstein is a game that is actually perfect for that, because BJ is supposed to be like a super soldier to some degree. And so playing the Wolfenstein games on easy is a blast because the story is the thing I'm there for, and I'm just here for the ride. And the levels are interesting, but the kind of enemy encounter and design is not the thing that I really care about. So I am blasting my way through Nazis. I'm just like having 2 AK-47s at once, just like, and they're all fucking like dying. It's like, hell yeah, this is the kind of experience that I want from this game. I don't want to get my teeth kicked in. I just don't. I'm here to see weird cutscenes and fun characters and stuff go crazy. And so the faster I can get through that and to those things, the better. And I have a fun time doing it because I do enjoy just mowing people down and just going crazy with all the wild guns that you have in the Wolfenstein series. So those in particular are a good example of like where lowering the difficulty just makes my experience exactly what I want it to be, right? So it's always on a genre by genre basis. Tactics games, right? Just talked about triangle strategy. There were many times in triangle strategy where I scraped through a fucking map with like one character left. And I loved that. I was like, fuck, this thing is kicking my ass. This is great, you know? Like, Fire Emblem Conquest, there's a map at the end of Fire Emblem Conquest that I spent 6 hours trying to do a perfect run of. And I loved it the whole time. Meanwhile, here I am, I die 5 minutes into a first-person shooter level, and I'm like, I never want to do that again, but I'll replay 2 hours of a Fire Emblem map, you know? And it's just, it depends on what your brain likes and what you are willing to put up with. Ultimately, I think what difficulty comes down to is what are you as a player willing to put up with replaying again, or doing for many times in a row, basically. So, and it's going to be different for everybody, right? Like Devil May Cry 5, I played on easy because I love the spectacle and the stupid cutscenes, and it's just fun to do that. And I'm not very good at character action games, so. You know, Bayonetta, I played Bayonetta 2 on easy because I'm just like, I just want to see the dumb shit happen. It's great fun. It's things blowing up, and I feel like there's a power fantasy to it. So yeah, that's kind of the direction I go in. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. No, I share a lot of that. I think my preferences are probably quite genre driven generally as well. So yeah, no, very good question. Difficulty, very. I think other podcasts have talked about things around difficulty because it is a hot topic. Our final email today is from Tim, who says, "Hi, I'm Zed and Bally. My question for you this time is, what is your perfect game length? In my opinion, there are 3 perfect lengths: 8 hours, 25 hours, and 60 hours. 3 lengths for 3 styles of game. If I wanted to be controversial, I'd go as far as to say any game falling in between or over these lengths would be better if it were shortened or lengthened to these amounts. Interested to hear your thoughts, Tim."
Yeah, the perfect game length. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Talked about a perfect difficulty, not a perfect length.
Yeah. It's so hard with game length, right? Because I feel sometimes that some short games I play feel like they go on forever, and some long games I play feel like they are over in an instant. You know, like I think pacing has such a difference on how you feel the hours, right? So not all hours are equal is what I'm saying, basically, you know? Like, right. Okay, 60 hours for a JRPG, man, if that's like Sea of Stars, that's way too much, you know? Because the pacing of that game does not support 60 hours, right? Versus Xenoblade, where that's not enough because like so much of there's so much downtime in an exploration focused game like that hours fly by at a pace, and you want to build the characters up over such a long period to have that crescendo at the end, right? And so yeah, I think you can have perfect length for the game, but it always depends on the pacing of the game to what hours matter, right? Because I've played plenty of 4-hour games that I think are way too long, because the pacing doesn't match the hour count that the game is given, if you know what I mean. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Bally?
I definitely do have like those similar categories in my head. I'd say I have the kind of 3 to 4 hour game in my head. That's like a short one. And then my most common, like, you know, bread and butter kind of game that I'll have on my backlog and play every now and then would be like a 10 to 15 hour game, or like a 12, 13 hour. Just be Professor Layton. That's like a perfect example, like 13-hour game. You know, the original Uncharted's are kind of that length. I mean, they're often a little bit shorter, right?
They are, yeah. Those are perfect in terms of pacing. Like, I would argue Uncharted 4 is weaker because it's like a 16 to 17 hour game.
Yeah. And I think there are lots of games now coming out that are between 25 and 60 hours that I think Tim's right in saying, like, they need to be either closer to 25 or closer to 60. Like Octopath Traveler 2. I think that was like 80, 90 hours or something I played. That's fine. Like, I think that game works for what it's going for. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh, boy.
If that was a 30-hour game like its predecessor remake, I think it would be really strong, actually. Like, I think
I agree. Yes. Yeah.
It's wild that remake is 25 hours or maybe 30, and then Rebirth is 70, 80. Like, it's crazy that, like, they thought they could change the fundamental pacing and style and structure of that game and think that it would be as strong. And so, yeah, I think that's a good example. And then I don't play a ton of games that are like 60 hours. I mean, this year's weird where I think I've played a bunch of games that are kind of the 35 to 40 hour mark. So
yeah, you're mainly in that level
like
at the moment.
DK and Claire Obscure.
Expedition 33 is like 40-ish hours. Silk Song you took about 40 hours with as well.
Those are my...
Even Nine Souls. I think Nine Souls was about 40 hours as well.
Like 35. Yeah, so I'm happy. Well, DK could have been 25, but the others I was happy with at 40-ish, I think. I think that like 40 is maybe another category I would make. So in my head, I maybe have 4 categories. I've got the 2 to 3 to 4 hour, let's play a short game. I've got the 13 hour, let's play an original Uncharted. I then have the 35 hour that is like these are the games that maybe could have been 25 hours, but in this modern industry have to be 35 hours. But
they're meaty but like satisfying.
Pikmin 4 is another 35-hour game. Then you've got, in my mind, the long games are longer than 60. They're often like 80, and they are, I don't know. Elden Ring's shorter than 80. Not that I've beaten it, but like...
well, it depends what you do, how long you take on it. So.
Rebirth, Octopath Traveler 2, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. Like, these are some of the longer games that I have beaten. So, yeah, I think I play like one of those a year. My aim was this year to beat those long ones was Witcher 3, and I failed horrendously. I would like to get back to that game next year, but like... I'm in a point in my life where I am struggling to beat the 60-hour plus games for sure. But yeah, I think that those are some good categories, and I agree that I mentally think about categories. They're just slightly different to Tim's.
Yeah. I don't know that I really have perfect length in terms of different categorizations in that way. I kind of obviously each game kind of treat it as its own basis, but it's always a mental calculus before you go into a game of what am I committing to, right? What is the commitment?
Yeah.
How am I feeling about that commitment? Do I have the attention span even for that commitment? I think this is something that is increasingly getting harder for everybody universally because of the way the world has changed. External
factors, exactly. People are spending their time in different ways.
Yeah, but then like everyone's attention span is horrendous.
Yes.
Like I don't know why, but like, I mean, I do know why. It's short form video. It's the internet generally, social media. It's all of my attention is so split across so many things that I find it quite hard to commit to longer games or to even like have the motivation to pick something up. Sometimes it's like there is so many things that I could get more instant validation from that my brain is just like, oh no, I'm just gonna scroll on this fucking YouTube shorts for like an hour for some goddamn reason, then realize I've wasted my time, and then you've lost an hour, right? And it's very difficult to do that, so yeah, I think those have a bigger impact these days on like what my commitment to a game is going to be. Like Ghost of Yotei, I think 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, I would have finished it already. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, don't want to spend another 20 hours in that just to finish it. And, now I'm finding excuses to, play it in different conditions to where I would be more focused on it.
I would have struggled a lot more with Yotei if I had gone slower. I was like, I need to get to the end of this game. And I think I enjoyed it more from playing it faster. And as you predicted, MZ, I mainlined that game more and more and more the further and further I got. And then I finished it. It's like, it's like that satisfaction of it's behind me, because I do still want to play the game and see the thing, at least the main story of the game and all the areas and this kind of thing. I want to see that, and I think the final area is very cool. But I am very conscious of like, oh, this game is so similar to the first game. It's not really doing that much. It's very different at all. And I'm not like overly surprised and impressed by where this game is going, but I still want to beat it, that kind of thing. Like I think that, and it's also like sunk cost fallacy. Like I'm 30 hours in. I think it's like another 8 hours to beat this game. Let's just do it. And I did it like in quite a short space of time, and that makes when you brute force a game, sometimes it can feel better. Other times it feels like a mistake, but with Yote, it definitely felt like the right thing for me to do in that moment. Just to brute force it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like, Metaphor was 90 hours of my life, and I did it in 3 weeks, and it didn't feel like 90 hours, you know? So, like, I think 90 hours is the perfect length for Metaphor, because it needs that space to tell its story and to feel like you've gone on a journey and to sit with the characters and all that sort of stuff, right? So it's a perfect length for what it is. If it was 60 hours, I think it would be worse, honestly, which is a weird thing to say, but I do think that there are certain games necessitate that length, just because of the nature of them and what you're dealing with and the sense of progression and journey over a long period of time, right? Like, if a game ends prematurely, then it feels like you haven't had that full rounded kind of journey with it. But it also depends on your investment in it, right? Like, you know, I'm not that invested in Ghost of Yote. I was very invested in Metaphor, right? And so if you're very invested in something, it almost doesn't matter how long the thing is, because you are there for the long haul, right? I was extremely invested in Silksong. I could have played it for 80 hours. I could have played it for 100. If it took me that long to get to the ending that I wanted, to do the stuff that I wanted, then I would have done it, right? And it's about how long can you maintain that momentum, and how committed you feel to it and how invested you are in it, right? So, yeah, I think that's probably the best way that I kind of approach perfect lengths for video games, is that, the perfect length for each game is dependent on the game itself and what it's trying to accomplish. And I think certain games, I feel like Rebirth is like the eternal fucking thing we bag on this podcast now. It's the perfect example of a game that doesn't understand its own pacing, you know? Like, that's the fundamental issue. And so it is the wrong length because its pacing doesn't dictate that it should be that long, you know?
I think that for us personally, it suffers by being the sequel. And what I mean by that is we both loved Remake so much that we were always going to play Rebirth. And that feeling of, well, we've got to play Rebirth. It's the sequel to one of our favorite JRPGs. Like, we're going to play it. And 20, 30 hours into Rebirth, we're like, yeah, we got to play it. We got to play it. And then 60 hours in, we're like, yeah, we got to play it. And then it's just kind of like, because we like the first one so much, because we like Final Fantasy, because we're probably going to play the trilogy, you know, I felt quite obligated to play it. And I felt like I wanted to see the end story beats in a way that wasn't just looking it all up on YouTube. And aside from Queen's Blood, which was like one of my highlights of the game, and I did all the extra quests for that, and that was great. Yeah, the game tailed off massively with my motivation and by the end. And yeah, I think that it was that feeling of, but maybe it turns into Remake in the final quarter, or maybe it turns into Remake in the final 8th, or maybe it turns into Remake in the final 100th of this game. And it never really did. And I think that's that weird problem. It's like, it's a sequel to a game that was very different, but then we feel it's a bit like if Tears of the Kingdom was a huge flop, you know, it would have been like, but I don't know. We feel obligated to play it because it's a sequel to such an incredible game, but then it just doesn't deliver.
Yeah, I mean, some would argue that.
Do not compare Tears of the Kingdom to Final Fantasy Rebirth.
Oh, no. Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is a much better game than Rebirth. Yes, I think we can all agree on that. But yeah, I think it is just that. It's also just middle chapter syndrome, right? It's just like, well, there's not actually... This is the problem with remaking, like taking a single game and spreading it into a giant remake of like, it should be The Empire Strikes Back, and it kind of is in the way that it ends, right? But it just feels like the most bloated version of that possible, basically. And so yeah, I think bloat is a significant issue in a lot of modern games, really, right? It's just like, and I get why. It's because, you know, we are anomalies in the game space. You know, as you talked about, I think on the Patreon episode, of like we're the 2+ gamers,
Yes.
which means we play more than 2 video games a year, and we are like such the minority that like most games are made for a player who intends to make that their thing they do for 6 months, right? Like, why does Assassin's Creed games so fucking bloated with shit to do? It's because their audience is, hey, I'm a guy who works at an office and I come home every day at 9 p.m. and I want to play an hour of Assassin's Creed every night. And I do that for 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the person who that is made for. So they have never-ending side quests and things to do and stuff to hunt down and just to get kind of stuck into it, basically. And for the press, for media, and for people like us, I'm like, oh god, I played like 8 hours of Assassin's Creed Shadow and I was exhausted, you know? Like, I'm like, fuck me, dude. It's the same thing.
Because we play so many lean games. We know the meaning of less is more. We know the feeling of playing a game that you play start to finish in 10 hours, and every one of those hours is so meaty and great and innovative. And yeah. When you've seen the light, you know, you can't go back.
Mini shoot adventures. Talk about the perfect length for a video game. Mini shoot adventures is like, I never wanted that to stop. Jesus.
Like perfect 12, 15-hour game. Like that's the pacing juice. That is
sumptuous,
incredible.
man. Absolutely sumptuous.
Loved it.
So
why is that game not on console yet? What is going on?
Yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, I think it's a good theory. I think generally speaking, your bucket idea, Bally, of like having, you know, you have 4, Tim has 3, but I do think that I think generally speaking, you can put things into those categories. And I think I do feel like Tim's doesn't account for the Despelotes of the world, right? Like,
right.
I do think that 2 to 4 hour game is probably the one that I appreciate the most, because they are pace breakers, right? Because oftentimes I find myself being like, I haven't had that feeling of finishing a game in a while. I need a short thing. I need a thing that I can do in an evening, right? The single evening game is maybe the perfect length of all of them.
But these shorter games often do the bolder ideas, like Consume Me and Despelote, and it's like, we'll take the narrative, we'll do something innovative and different, and part of the strength of that game means it has to be shorter, because that's how long that mechanic works for that type of game.
Right, and if you went any longer with it, it would overstay its welcome. Right. I played Keeper, right, and that game is great. But there's like hour 1 is hour 2 is great, then hour 3 is hour 4 is great. So it's like, could Keeper have been 2 hours instead of 4? I think so, and it probably would have been stronger as a result, right? I do think that even as a 4-hour game, it's still a little bit bloated, you know. So there are, you know, even in that space that they're playing in, there is ways in which you can streamline it to make it feel like a smoother experience. So, but yeah, it's a good question. Interesting one to think about, but it won't stop me from spending 150 hours in the next Xenoblade when Monolith Soft releases it, so that will happen.
You think that's next year?
I think a Monolith Soft game will come out. Not come out, I think it'll be announced next year.
Okay.
What it is, I have no idea. I feel like I think it's a 50-50. I think it's 50-50 shot whether it's Xenoblade or it's something else. So
I just dangle these questions in front of you to help me with my fantasy critic for bidding.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, don't worry. I'm drafting Fire Emblem next year. No one else is taking that, all right? All right, no one's fucking taking it from me.
Like, I'm not even in the same league as you next year. I'm relegated, mate. I'm gone.
Wait, are you sure you're relegated? Are we sure about this? Is it?
I'm very confident I'm getting relegated.
Okay.
If bottom two are going down, I'm relegated.
Shit, well, maybe it's the first time, Bally.
We're keeping up the football chat. We've just been football at the start of the show, football at the end.
Yeah,
it's all football.
That's how it works. Yeah, well, if you are, then maybe we can strategize together, or and figure out what the best
I'm gonna
things
get
are
back
to draft.
up by myself. All right, I can do it.
Okay.
We'll get
all right.
back up.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Great. Well, that is going to do us for this podcast episode of the show. Thanks everybody, of course, for listening. You, of course, can help the show in various ways. You can support it directly, monetarily, one might say, by going to patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, where, Bally, we'd like to thank some of our supporters.
Thank you to our $10 tier plus patrons. They are Sullivan C, Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK Alan, Orange Thunder, Nintendo Man, Turtle, and Ali T. Thank you all for your $10 tier plus support. But thank you also to all of our other patrons. We really, really, really appreciate all the support you give the show. And if you want to support us on Patreon, head on over to ThisNintendoLife Patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife. And then we've got 2 bonus shows over there that you can listen to. They're good shows. I'd recommend them.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, of course, find the show in various spots on the internet. We're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher. You can download us and get your podcast every couple of weeks' time. You can follow us online. I am at NBZ on Blue Sky. Where are you, Bally?
I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91 on Blue Sky.
Nice. And you can find the podcast on there as well at TNL Podcast for updates about the show and what is happening. And of course, if you'd like to have your email read, then you can send it, Bally, to where?
Please email thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Great. Cool. I think that is pretty much going to do us for this show. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. And I actually have Pokemon now, so I will be playing that. And I will give my thoughts. So, yes.
I've heard so many things about this game.
Yes, very interesting game.
It's rubbing people up all the wrong ways and right ways and everything in between. But yeah,
I'm very, very early. I'm only 2 hours or so in, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns into vitriolic hatred probably in 20 hours time. But no, I think it'll be fine. And so yeah, we'll discuss that on the next episode. And then we're really in the run up to Game of the Year stuff and the final things being put into place. So Bally's out there. He's playing video games, trying to tick things off his list. So we'll see how that goes and if he does it in time or not. But to follow along, you got to listen to this show. So please do that, and we will see you next time in a couple of weeks for more podcasting, more Nintendo, and more video games. Till then, goodbye. The musical interlude used on today's show was Professor Layton's theme from Professor Layton and the Curious Village, copyright level 5, 2007.